What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the iPad Air, the 5th generation iPad, to the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1, which is the 2014 edition. So the iPad Air was just announced yesterday from Apple. It's the latest addition to the iPad series, and the Galaxy Note 10.1 is currently the high-spec Android tablet out there, so definitely the biggest competitor to the iPad Air on the Android side of things. But how do these two compare? What's different? Well, do hit that thumbs up button and let's find out in this head-to-head spec comparison. So starting off with the difference in screen size, on the Note 10.1, as the name suggests, it's a 10.1 inch screen versus the 9.7 inch screen on the Apple iPad Air. So the Note 10.1 does have a larger screen, and it's also got a high resolution, 2560 by 1600, so very high resolution here compared to the 2048 by 1536 resolution on the Apple iPad Air. So in terms of PPI, you've got 264 versus 299 on the 10.1, so you've got a high resolution and a high pixel density on the Note 10.1 here. Now you've got a difference in terms of the ratio as well. You've got a 16 by 10 screen on here, and you've got a 4 by 3 screen on the Apple iPad Air. Now this comes down to personal preference. Generally videos are in 16 by 9, so you're going to be seeing less black bars on the top and bottom of videos on the Note 10.1 compared to the Apple iPad Air. So that is something to bear in mind, the difference in ratio. What do you prefer? The Note 10.1 is intended more for landscape use, and you can see that by the placement of the logos and the cameras and things. So it is more intended for the landscape use, whereas the iPad is more intended for the portrait use when you're browsing the web and things. Now looking at the size of both of these devices, the Note 10.1 does come in slightly larger, 3.1 millimeters in terms of height, 1.9 millimeters in terms of the width, and just 0.4 millimeters thicker. So the iPad Air is a little bit more compact compared to the Note 10.1, but in terms of size there's not a huge deal of difference. There is a difference in terms of weight, however. The iPad Air coming in 71 grams lighter than the Note 10.1, so it is more compact overall, and Apple are claiming that the iPad Air is currently the lightest full-size tablet out there at the moment, hence the name iPad Air. Now you've also got a difference in terms of the build. The Apple iPad Air does have the aluminium unibody design that we're used to seeing. The Note 10.1 comes with the plastic build, but it's got a leather style plastic, so it's plastic made to look and feel like leather with some fine stitching, so looking more like a notebook here, and that's very similar to the Note 3 that we've seen. So you've got an interesting texture here on the Note 10.1. It's very similar to the Note 3, and they've gone away from that glossy plastic, which not many people like. You've got the black and white versions available on the Note 10.1, and on the Apple iPad Air you've got the space grey, and then you've also got the silver and white version. Now in terms of the internals, both of these are rocking some of the best internals out there at the moment. The Note 10.1 comes with either the quad-core 2.3 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor, or you've also got the octa-core version, which has 4 cores at 1.9 and the other 4 at 1.3. The Apple iPad Air comes with the dual-core 1.3 GHz Apple A7 chip, but this is a 64-bit chip, which is really nice to see. This is the same that we saw on the Apple iPhone 5s. So in terms of the performance, we'll have to put these side by side and look at benchmarks, but both of these rocking some of the best hardware out there at the moment. The iPad Air also comes with the M7 Motion Core processor. Now this tracks motion data, and it doesn't wake up the main CPU to save battery as well. Now how much you're going to be needing motion data on a tablet, I'm not too sure, but there may be a few people who might find that useful on a tablet. Now in terms of the RAM, you've got 1 GB of RAM on the Apple iPad Air. On the Note 10.1 you've got 3 GB of RAM, so you've got a huge amount of RAM on the Note 10.1, and that's mainly for the multitasking abilities of the tablet, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. Now in terms of the different options available, you've got the 16, 32, 64, you've also got 128 gig version on the iPad Air, and you've got these available in the Wi-Fi only as well as the Wi-Fi and cellular versions. Now the Note 10.1, you've got the 16, 32 and 64 GB versions, but they've not been specific which ones of these will have the cellular options, but these will definitely be available in the Wi-Fi. Now the advantage that you've got on the Note 10.1 is that it does have expandable storage, however, so even if you go for one of the smaller options, you're not stuck with that. You've got micro SD up to 64 GB expandable storage on the Note 10.1. This is something that I really like about Samsung devices. Pretty much all of Samsung devices come with that expandable storage, which is a big advantage. The Apple iPad Air just comes with the fixed storage options, so if you are somebody who needs extra storage, then it might be worth planning ahead and going for a larger option. In terms of the cameras, you've got a 5 megapixel rear facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD on the iPad Air. On the Note 10.1, you've got an 8 megapixel camera, so a high resolution. It's also got an LED flash, something that the iPad Air does not have, and it also films at 1080p at 60 frames a second. So you definitely have a more advantage here in terms of the resolution and the higher frame rate on the Note 10.1. Front-facing cameras, you've got 1.2 megapixel camera capable of filming 720p HD on the iPad Air. Now the Note 10.1 once again has an advantage here because it's got a 2 megapixel front-facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD. So you've got a high resolution on the front and the rear-facing cameras on the Note 10.1, and I do like the fact that you've got 1080p from both the front and the back. I like that consistency. This is something that I would have liked to have seen on the iPad Air. I'm not sure why they've not included this. They've stuck to 720p on all of their front-facing cameras on pretty much all of their mobile devices. The iPhone 5s as well, they stuck with 720p from the front-facing camera. I'm sure they could have done 1080p. I prefer that just for consistency's sake, just so that you've got consistent cameras on the rear and the front in terms of video. Now in terms of operating systems, you've got Android versus iOS. You've got the latest version of iOS, iOS 7 on the iPad Air. On the Note 10.1, you've got the latest version of Jelly Bean right now, which is 4.3, but it does have the TouchWiz skin on top, so Samsung's TouchWiz skin. Now, although that brings some additional features, you do lose out on updates directly from Google, and you do have to wait around for Samsung to port these over onto the device, and sometimes you could be waiting months. So the advantage that you've got here on the iPad is that you're going to be getting updates straight away. In terms of the differences, the specific differences between Android and iOS, I'm not going to go into too much details in this video. Now looking at some of the additional features that both of these tablets offer, the Note 10.1 does come with the S Pen. Now this is quite unique and separates it out from a lot of other tablets out there. The advanced S Pen features is definitely one of the best out there on any tablets, and you've got lots of updated features. So you've got Air View, you can hover the pen around, and you've got S Command as well, so you can make notes, you can scribble around things. It's got very advanced handwriting recognition. You've got Scrapbook, where you can circle items, images, text and videos, and drag them over into your scrapbook, which is quite nice. You've also got advanced multitasking. Now this is my personal favorite feature on the Note 10.1. As with the Note 3, what you can do is you can simply draw a box and it'll open a new window in there. You've also got multi-window support, so now this is where that RAM really kicks in. You can have loads of windows open at the same time on the same screen, really utilizing that larger screen and all that extra RAM as well. The Note 10.1 also has an IR blaster, so you can control your television and other infrared devices. This is not available on the iPad Air. The iPad Air, however, does come with MIMO WiFi technology, so this is something new, and it's supposed to give you faster Wi-Fi because of dual antennas. And in terms of the App Store as well, you've got a lot more optimized apps for the iPad Air, somewhere close to 500,000. Now the thing is, this is one of the problems I had with the Nexus 10 as well. Because of that high resolution, not all apps were optimized, so you couldn't get the best out of the apps on the Nexus 10, as you won't be able to do with the Note 10.1 until there's more optimized apps for that massive resolution. In terms of the differences in batteries, you've got 10 hours usage between both of these, so you're going to be getting roughly about the same amount of usage. Now finally, moving on to the price, the iPad Air is going to be available from November. The 16GB base model, you're going to be looking at £399 in the UK or $499 in the US, the same pricing structure as the previous iPad. Now in terms of the 32GB version, you're going to be looking at £479 here in the UK or $599 in the US. Now comparing that to the Note 10.1, it is currently available. You can pick up the 16GB base model for around about £450 in the UK or $549 in the US. Now the 32GB version in the US, you're looking at $599. It is not currently available in the UK, and there's no pricing information available as yet. Now if you compare the base models between these two, you can see that the Note 10.1 is slightly more expensive, £50 in the UK or $50 in the US, although the 32GB version is the same price in the US. So you are going to be paying a little bit more for the Note 10.1 compared to the Apple iPad Air, and those were the key differences between these two devices. The Note 10.1 does have some additional features like the S Pen and the advanced multitasking, but the Apple iPad Air is a lot more compact and it's lighter, and it's the lightest full-size tablet out there at the moment. So it really depends on your personal preference at the end of the day. Which one will you be going for? Which one do you think is better? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time. If you want to see more regular videos like this one, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, which will be below. If you're on a mobile device, it may be somewhere else. If you want to see my previous related video, then hit the link right here. If you want to stay in touch over Facebook, Twitter and Google+, then all of the addresses will be there somewhere, as well as direct links in the description below.